रोज नवनवीन व्हिडिओज पाहण्यासाठी आमच्या चॅनलला सबस्क्राईब करा व या बेल आयकॉन
Appreciation of the poem Where the Mind is Without Fear. Point format for understanding. The title of the poem Where the Mind is Without Fear. The poet Rabindranath Tagore. Theme / central idea. This is the prayer to God. Tagore asked him to awaken his country into the heaven of freedom, where there is a total freedom of the good thoughts, good words, and good actions. Rhyme scheme. Written in the free verse without any rhyme scheme or meter. Figures of speech, personification. Special feature. Type of the poem, imaginary, implied the meaning, if any, etc. Reflective poem conveys strong feeling for the process of the country, an extremely patriotic poem. Favorite lines: where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. Why I like or don't like the poem? I like the poem as it is a deeply sensitive, fresh and beautiful. Paragraph format. The poem Where the Mind is Without Fear, written by Rabindranath Tagore, is a prayer to the God. Tagore addresses the God as my father and asks him to awaken his country into a heaven of freedom, where there is a total freedom of good thoughts, good work, words, and the good actions. He wishes for a country where the people should be free from fears, where the knowledge should be free to all individuals, and people from all castes and religions should be united. The poem is written in the free verse without any rhyme scheme or meter followed throughout the poem. There are the many figures of speech. For example, the personification, where the tireless striving stretches its arm toward the perfection. Here we can actually visualize tireless striving stretching its arm to reach its goal. The special feature of this poem is the emotion it conveys and the strong feeling of the poet for the progress of the country. It is an extremely patriotic poem. My favorite line is, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. I like the line because there is a very positive emotion in this line, showing the fearlessness, dignity, and self-respect. I like this poem because it is a deeply sensitive, fresh, and a beautiful. Poem 1.4 All the World's a Stage. Point format for understanding. The title of the poem All the World's a Stage. Poet William Shakespeare. Theme / central idea. The theme of the poem is the cycle of the life. Rhyme scheme. Rhyme scheme. Blank verse, that is no rhyme scheme, but there is a steady rhythm of the 5 beats in each line. Figures of speech, metaphor. Special feature. Type of the poem, imaginary, implied meaning, if any, etc. Imaginary narrative style used by the poet gives the continuity to the poem, where the one stage smoothly goes into the next. The favorite lines: all the world's a stage, and all men and women are merely players. Why I like / don't like the poem? I like this poem because it shows us the cycle of the life of which everyone is a part. Paragraph format. The poem All the World's a Stage by the William Shakespeare is taken from Shakespeare's play As You Like It. It is a monologue, loud speech to oneself, by one of the characters in the play. In this poem, the Shakespeare compares the life to a stage. He has divided the life into the 7 stages, each having its own varied qualities and features. The theme of the poem is the cycle of the life. It tells us how one starts out an infant, helpless, without understanding, and ends the same way without being aware of what is happening around one. The poem is written in the blank verse, that is, there is no rhyme scheme, but there is a steady rhyme of 5 beats in each line. There are many figures of speech, but the one that stands out is a metaphor. In the lines, all the world's a stage and all men and women are merely players, there is an implied compassion between the two different things. The special feature of the poem is imaginary. Many of the lines create a picture before our eyes and help us to imagine the seven stages in the man's life. The narrative style used by the poet gives the continuity to the poem, where one stage smoothly goes into the next. This is one of the most famous and quoted poems of the Shakespeare. My favorite line is, all the world's a stage and all men and women are merely players. I like this poem because it describes correctly how we must look at life. I like the poem because it shows us the cycle of the life of which everyone is a part. Poem 2.1 Animals. Point format for understanding. The title of the poem Animals. The poet Walt Whitman. Rhyme scheme free verse. No rhyme scheme. Favorite line, they bring me the tokens of myself. The theme oblique central idea, animals are better than humans. Figures of speech, repetition. Special feature, reflective, simple, simple language, subtle tone, indirectly referring to human being, descriptive words for good animal qualities. Why I like or dislike the poem. I like this poem. It teaches us which qualities we require to cultivate in order to foster the good relationship between ourselves. Paragraph format. The poem Animals has been penned by Walt Whitman. The poet has broken away from the conventional use of a rhyme scheme and has written the poem in a free verse. A line in this poem which is my favorite is, they brings me tokens of myself. This is a very powerful line that shows us what good qualities human beings must have possessed when they were almost like animals in the early stage of evolution and which they still possess while we do not. The central idea of the poem is that the animals today are better than humans. The chief figures of speech used in the poem is repetition. Lines such as, they do not sweat, they do not lie awake, they do not make me sick make a strong impact, impressing the qualities that the humans should possess but do not. This is a reflective poem. The language used is simple, but the tone is subtle. By describing the qualities that the animals possess today, the poet indirectly implies that we human beings too should possess these qualities. The poet has used the adjectives such as placid and self-contained to bring out the good qualities possessed by the animals. I like this poem very much because it tells us indirectly that if we want to improve human relationships, we should observe and pick up the qualities that animals now possesses and which we might have once possessed but have the carelessly given up on the path of evolution. Poem 2.4 The Pulley. Point format for understanding. Title of the poem The Pulley. The poet George Herbert. The central idea or theme, the reason why man is continuously restless. Rhyme scheme, ABABA. Figures of speech, metaphor. Special feature, explaining the human nature, rich imaginary of a human qualities. Favorite line, let him be rich and weary. Why I like or don't like the poem, teach me not to be the self-satisfied and content, but to always remember and thank God for all the blessings He has bestowed on me. Paragraph format. The title of the poem is The Pulley. The poet is Gregor George Herbert. The central idea of the poem is the reason for man's continuous restlessness all his life. According to the poet, this is because the God withheld the qualities of the rest from the man, so that man's thoughts would ultimately turn towards the God means his creators. Each verse of the poem has 5 lines. The rhyme scheme of each verse is AB, AB, A. The chief figures of speech used in this poem is the metaphor. The glass of blessings signifies the sum of all human qualities bestowed on man. The quality of a rest and a contentment is a implicity compared to a jewel. This is a poem with a message, and the message is that however rich we may be, or whatever the abundance of qualities we may have, we must always turn our thoughts to the God and thank Him for the many blessings He has bestowed on us. My favorite line in this poem is, "Let him be rich and weary." This brings out the paradox of a man's nature so well. Even the richest man in this world finally gets tired and experiences the discontentment. This is what the God intended for man. I like this poem very much because it teaches me not to be the self-satisfied and content, but to always remember and thank God for all the blessings He has bestowed on me.
मित्रांनो, हा व्हिडिओ संपूर्ण पाहण्यासाठी धन्यवाद. हा व्हिडिओ आवडल्यास या व्हिडिओला लाईक करा. या व्हिडिओची माहिती तुमच्या इतर मित्रांनाही कळू द्या, म्हणजेच या व्हिडिओला शेअर करा. आणि असे नवनवीन व्हिडिओ रोज पाहण्यासाठी आमच्या चॅनलला सबस्क्राईब करा.